Welcome to another episode of the Blue Fort Blueprint. Today we have something very exciting to talk about, and we're going to talk about the disruption of artificial intelligence in businesses. The more I read about this topic, the more it scares me. I'm excited but terrified at the same time at how broad the scale of this technology is and how little we understand, right? So let's get right into it, guys. Last week, you and I were in Bangalore, right? And what really opened our eyes was a client of yours who works in the tech space told us how Google's business model can get completely disrupted. And he showed us this app called Perplexity,
Yep.
which is something like ChatGPT, but in real time, right? So, can you talk about a little bit about the conversation you had with him? Because when we spoke about it, it was extremely enlightening, and I don't think a lot of us have thought of the impact that artificial intelligence can have on so many different sectors. It's completely going to enshroud a lot of businesses, right?
Yeah, so I was having lunch with this client, and he works in the AI ML space. And we were just casually discussing, and he said that his usage of Google search has come down by 70 to 80%.
Wow.
And that is massive, right? And I asked him what he uses instead of it. He said there's this AI chatbot called Perplexity. And that's what he uses, and it's as good as Google because it gives you real time results. So I tried it out then. I put in a prompt and I asked a question, whatever I would do to Google. Instead, Perplexity gave me an answer from multiple articles, summarized it for me, and gave me the references of where its sources, basically. So the point being that something like a Google, which has been so constant in our lives for the past 20 years, maybe, is the first web page that we all open, that itself could get disrupted. Uh, I again met another client who works within Google, and I told him about this conversation. He said that he was not as concerned because he said Google is so all encompassing, right? Google search is one part, but there's YouTube, there's Google Maps, there's Android, all of these things which are so widely used. He said that the company is still going to be all right. The point is, whoever you speak to can have very differing opinions, and it's very hard to say where this world is headed.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I think last week, I was reading about an article about these two music generating apps, right? Not apps, sorry, artificial intelligence companies. One was called Udio and one was called Zuno or something. And they were being sued by a lot of studios in the world for copying their music. So basically, what their business model is that they make music using AI,
Right.
right? So I was thinking that we may not even need singers or performers in the future. People who are actually writing, lyricists, for example, right? People who are actually singing, for example, or DJs, for example, people who are making all of this music. AI is just going to do that, and it's going to use all the data of previous hits, right?
Right.
That I'm sure there's a reason why certain songs are on billboards, right? The top 100 charts or whatever. They're going to be using the data from that music and see what is the most catchy and what is the most trending, and they're going to make songs by themselves. So we may not even need pop stars anymore. And I never thought of it this way, right? Because I always thought that AI will, what it'll do is it'll disrupt blue collar workers, for example.
Yeah, the
Factories will
grunt
be,
work basically.
yeah, grunt work, or maybe associates in a law firm, or maybe, like, let's say, associates at a wealth management, what we do, right? But the fact that it can also completely wipe out the creative industry is something that I never thought of. And I think it has no limits, like, like I said, music artists, lyricists, so many more, right?
I think technology in itself, right, is relatively scary to relative generations. So, for example, let's look at 80s and 90s when the internet came in. You wouldn't have, I mean, of course, we were not aware of what was happening back then as much, but right, it would have been so scary to imagine just whatever you want to search, whatever you're looking at, it's just right in front of you, right? Nothing before that. 2000s, when the entire dot-com bubble and the revolution with Google coming in, the Apples of the world coming in, nobody knew, yeah, this device particularly could do so much. And now, especially with the AI and how advanced the AIs are, as he mentioned, right? Perplexity, we want to make some messages, we want to read out, probably talk about this podcast, right? You can just probably put that topic on Perplexity and it's right there.
Yeah,
Not
maybe
only
even
that,
podcasters will be wiped out because
exactly.
because AI will be able to make a better conversation than most human beings, something that is way more interesting.
I
So
honestly think no one's safe.
no one's safe, absolutely. So people always had this in the last 2 3 years, right? Especially after COVID, people had this conversation that अच्छा AI आ जाएगा तो ये बच जाएंगे, ये नहीं बचेंगे, ये हो जाएगा, ये नहीं होगा. It's nothing like that. None of us are safe in a way that because every every work we do, whatever we are doing, can be done by that particular technology, right? And much better than us because of the efficiency and the sheer database that they have.
Yeah.
That's actually a very good point that over generations, this change has continued to happen.
Absolutely.
But in the last few years, as you said, the pace of change has accelerated so significantly. If you look at the top tech names in the world, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, they built up over decades. Nvidia now, which is amongst them,
Right.
it's one of the three largest companies in the world. Up until 5 years ago was nothing. The market cap today is more than 3 trillion. 5 years ago was less than 100 billion, right? So less than 1/30th of it. Within 5 years, it's now one of the largest companies in the world. In another 5 years, it could go back to being nothing.
Right.
If there's another innovation, something better, someone else that comes up and does something better than what Nvidia does. So that's the scary thing, how quickly things are changing.
I think how this translates for investing, at least, is that I'm advising a lot of young professionals that we work with to make sure that their portfolios are as liquid as possible. I think that is one way to safeguard, your portfolio, your wealth from such quick change, because you don't know what will go from 0 to 100 and 100 to 0, right?
Right.
So if your portfolio is liquid, then there's opportunity. If your portfolio is not liquid at all, you might just completely be disrupted. Perhaps it's not a very good idea to put in a ton of your money in startups anymore. Tech names that you don't understand, because you never know. Some new technology could emerge, and within months your investments could be completely wiped out. So stick to stuff that you understand and make sure your liquids, your portfolio is as liquid as possible.
See, if you actually see any big innovation in history that happens is usually by an outsider. It's by a new company. It's not by the incumbent. So if you take the example of smartphones, the existing guys dominating were Nokia, BlackBerry in
Correct.
phones. They were not able to scale up. If you look at EVs, it's Tesla, BYD leading the way. The incumbents are not able to do it. If you look at online shopping, it was Amazon that brought it in place, right? It's not the Walmarts that decided that we want to move things online. So it's never the incumbents, and you never know when that new player is going to come in and completely disrupt the game. From an investing perspective, the best thing to do is make sure you're investing in a basket rather than picking individual stocks, because those individual stocks could not be worth very much in a few years. It could be something completely outside of that.
Yeah, don't just blindly invest just because something is related to artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Because there's so much nuance, right? What exactly do they do regarding? I don't even think a lot of experts exactly understand how things are going to pan out in the near future. There's so many, like you said earlier, there's so many differing views
Yeah.
of how this technology is going to change. One more funny example is that now there are beauty pageants of models who are AI generated. Did you know that? So now there's
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so
Correct.
There are
there's-
AI influencers as well.
Yeah,
AI
influencers earning
influencers,
much
yeah.
more than regular influencers.
Yeah, I mean, so there's an AI generated model called Zara Shatavari
Okay.
who has entered a beauty pageant,
And she's one.
and she's the India contestant. But this is an AI beauty pageant. These models don't actually exist.
Correct.
They're completely AI generated, and these models have a complete backstory. They have thousands of followers on Instagram. They have websites. They have childhood stories. They have experiences, and they have a whole like personality.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So how are you supposed to distinguish? That's another thing I'm really scared about. How are you supposed to distinguish in the near future reality versus artificial?
Virtual,
You have no idea. Yesterday I was watching a video where Ronaldo was talking about an Mbappe.
Yeah.
It was an AI created video, right? Ronaldo never said those
I
things.
saw something like
Correct.
that as well.
Deep fake. That is, I think,
Deep
But
fake,
this
but
is
it's all
one step
gener-
beyond deep
one
fake.
step beyond
Yeah,
deep fake.
and the accent was exactly the same.
Ronaldo.
His lips were moving in the same way, and he was talking about Mbappe, and he was saying something that was not too denigrating, but it was not a very nice thing to say.
Correct.
So you might even see if you were saying something that is too, criticizing too much, then you'd be like, this is fake.
Correct.
But you would just buy that this is what he's saying. So imagine the consequences this has on something like politics, right?
Yeah.
Or selecting your world leaders, or selecting business leaders. Like I don't know about you guys, but it really kind of freaks me out as to what is going to happen in the near
See,
future.
it's a very interesting point, right? Because these are some of the, I would say, mishaps or the bad things about technology. The good things, if you have to look about in terms of technology in general, right? Over the years, as Sayam also mentioned, right, there are certain players in the market who have decided certain rules, right, about certain products. So let's for example take banking, correct? Right now in India, wherever you go, whatever you do, there are bank accounts everywhere. There are QR codes. There is payments happening. Google Pay, UPI, whatever you say, right? Happening everywhere, which was not the case 15, 20, 30 years ago. So the existing players had decided a rule saying that these are the undeserved parts of undeserved people or something, that they are not allowed for banking. We don't want them anything. They are not allowed any accounts or whatever. But today, all of them are part of the economy, right? The economy just becomes so vast. So it's something I read somewhere, that the technology is not discriminating. The humans discriminate, right?
Yeah.
So technology coming in helps us reduce that completely. Today, anywhere from any village, whatever they want to do, they can just come out and build the greatest startup there ever is, do whatever the hell they want to, right? So that really is a great advantage of technology. But the scary thing, as you mentioned, right? You come on Instagram, Narendra
Yeah.
Modi is the biggest, the best singer out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
Yeah. But that's a good point. I think technology is the great equalizer. Before, to start a company, to write a code, whatever you needed to have money, hire coders.
Correct.
That same client that I had lunch with, he said that he has coded a program end to end that is revenue generating by himself in 3 weeks using the help of AI.
Wow.
If he wanted to do that, literally do the same thing a year ago, he would have had to hire front end developers, back end developers, and build a whole team. So it's kind of scary where tech is going, but it's also quite exciting at what will be able to do.
Forget businesses or people or whatever. Let's look at individually how we are living, right? What it was 10, 15 years ago to what it is today. For example, I just recently did this experiment, I would say. I was going for a trip and my wallet was in my bag, right? I kid you not, from the airport to till coming back, right? I did not need cash or the wallet at all, right?
Yeah.
You go to the airport, there's DigiYatra, there is your DigiLocker
Correct.
to show your documents.
Yeah.
You move inside, you sit in the plane, nothing at all. There is Google Pay everywhere.
Yeah.
There was in Uttarakhand, our last village is Mana,
Yeah.
right? After that, there is Tibetan border or whatever. There is a special chai wala out there. Well, nobody knew about him, right? 10, 15 years ago, he just became famous.
And he has a
You
QR
go there,
code,
you have
yeah.
QR code and you're done. So you literally go to the last mile of a country
Yeah.
and you will not need your wallet. And
Yeah.
it's insane how that has changed.
Honestly,
Yeah.
it's become hard to use cash. Like even the rickshawalas now or the cabbies are preferring UPI.
Absolutely, yeah.
They don't
When I
want
was
to
in
mess around
Bangalore-
with the change. And even in Bangalore, 100%,
Yeah.
no one wants cash. It's very hard to use cash.
Problem is the first day.
What happened on the first day?
I my phone got discharged.
Ah,
So and I did
yeah.
not have. So that's when you realize and you shit your pants at how useful your phone has become, because you are so handicapped without your phone now,
Absolutely.
and that I think I was not able to function. I was not able to understand what to do next. If you remember in the cab,
Yeah,
it got,
yeah.
yeah, just-
Or in a new city now, it's just like, Google Maps every place. Up until a few years ago, it was as simple just asking someone,
Correct.
which now feels like such a foreign concept. Do you guys remember a few years ago, quite a few years ago, a movie called Her came out, where the main character falls in love with his artificial assistant on his phone. And how far do you think we are from something like that?
I think more recent movie is Teri Baaton Mein Aisa Ulja Jiya.
That is a
That's
full-scale
That is a
robot.
Bollywood. That is a Bollywood equivalent to that. Because
Yeah, I
Viraj
think
and
the
I would have
aunt,
seen
the
that.
aunt wrote the code or something, right, for the robot.
Yeah,
In
the aunt
Her.
was the inventor.
The aunt
owner
was
of
the inventor,
company.
and there was
Yeah.
a reason she did that.
No, but we're already there to answer your question. People have fallen in, I think,
Yeah.
in Japan, you get like sex robots and stuff like that. It's very, very prevalent. And I'm sure people.
A robot committed suicide somewhere.
Correct. I read about that.
This
yeah,
weekend,
somewhere.
I think, or something.
But I
right?
think that's more like a PR and publicity. sort
I
of
think
thing.
it's like he was doing too many tasks and he just wanted to. He fell off the stairs.
Yeah.
I think that defeats the purpose of the robot.
But yeah, it's pretty scary here. I think that it's just impossible to say. It's more and more, I think, futile to make predictions of the market, of business cycles, of where the world is going to go than it was 1 year ago. It was never a good idea to make certain predictions. But now I think it's just, you just go with the flow kind of thing.
Correct.
Keep your portfolio liquid. Don't invest in something you don't completely understand, and diversify. Most importantly, that's what we would have to say about this whole AI or emerging of AI technology.
I think just to add, same as ever, no matter where the world goes, stick to the basics. That will always still work.
All right. So the other thing we wanted to discuss is the importance of having a financial plan, or the importance of having a structure when it
Right.
comes to your financial planning or your personal money. See, there's two ways you can invest, or there's two sort of approaches you can take to create personal wealth that we've seen in all of these
Correct.
years. One is called the random product buying approach, or I'll figure it out as we go approach, which is what most people are using. And what that means is that every time you have some money, you just randomly buy some or the other investment.
Correct.
Perhaps you buy a property, or perhaps you buy some mutual fund stocks. It depends on the timing at that point in time, what your mood is, what kind of advice you're getting, and what is working best, right? So you just keep doing that every now and then. And in 10 years, 15 years, you hope that by the time you're 50, 55, you have enough assets accumulated. And hopefully that'll be enough and you'll live a decent life. So that is one approach. And that is a very blinding approach. I think that's a lot of people don't have clarity with that approach, right? The second one is making a structure, knowing with a 80%, 90% accuracy what kind of net worth you can get to in what year. And that is what we call having a financial plan. So putting down everything on a piece of paper, including your income and expense patterns, putting down your objectives, which are short term and long term, right? Putting down your insurance needs, and putting down what you've invested in so far, right? What is your current assets list? And then creating some sort of a structure where you know that, okay, if this is what I do every year, then I can get to this number, and this is how my objectives will be taken care of in this year, right? Which is something that we do for our clients. What is the difference between the two approaches, and in your experience, how profound of an impact does the second approach make versus the first one?
Look, in my 10 years of experience working at Anand Rathi and right now at Blue Fort, right, I kid you not, there are only a handful of individuals out there who actually know that what number they are at right now and where they want to be. Correct? And by not having that destination approach on themselves, right, knowing about where they want to be, it's very, very difficult to make a financial plan or to take right decisions, right? So what you mentioned about the first approach is something that you always say, right? Shooting arrows in the dark.
Yeah.
Correct. आज हम इधर है, कल अगर पैसे आएंगे तो कोई एफडी ले लेंगे, कल अगर कुछ और आएंगे तो कोई म्यूचुअल फंड ले लेंगे, देख लेंगे. Correct. There is no review done. There is just after 15 years you just have 10, 15 random products. 8 are doing great, 4 are doing average, 5 are doing bad, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
And this is how it's always going to be. But that is something which is very, very disastrous, because what happens is, right, suddenly you realize, okay, you are in need of money, and you have money stuck in real estate and you never planned for it. You have some money stuck in stocks which are delisted or whatever, something happened to there, and you just cannot do anything with it, right? With a financial plan, when you have that goal, right, when you have that tunnel vision that I'm at 100, I want to be at 500 in the next 10 years, and this is how I'm going to be. What happens is, first and foremost, you end up eliminating things you don't have to do, right? अगर आपको 100 से 500 पहुंचना है और अगर आप खुश हो उसमें से, तो काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें लाइक योर क्रिप्टो, some friend comes to you, अरे भाई क्रिप्टो ले लो, मज़ा आ जाएगा, वो अवॉइड हो जाएगी बिकॉज वो नहीं करना है मज़ा, मुझे 500 पहुंचना है, मैं पहुंच जाऊंगा. करेक्ट. अगर भाई तू ये कर ले, ये स्टॉक टिप है, ये कर ले, मज़ा आ जाएगा. अगेन द सेम थिंग, राइट? यू डोंट हैव टू डू दैट. सो इट पुट्स यू ऑन द राइट ट्रैक. इट गिव्स यू दैट डिजायर्ड गोल कि यार मुझे इधर करना है, एंड दिस इज समथिंग विच इज डायनामिक. दिस नॉट लाइक कि बस आज हम बैठे ये 500 तक पहुंच जाएंगे तो चलो बात खत्म हो गई, पहुंच जाऊंगा. इट इज समथिंग यू सी every 3 months, every 6 months. Have that numerical goal always, and update it based on your lifestyle, right? You are in a decent house right now, you want a bigger house, no problem. You can spend 5 crores, 10 crores, 15 crores for that if you have that liquidity. But you have to plan for it today. You cannot just wake up randomly, acha aaj ek bada ghar chahiye. Correct? So that planning, right, that approach really helps people. It's a big difference, the first and the second approach, and every individual out there with a wealth advisor, without a wealth advisor, should have that particular thing in place.
And it's not rocket science at all. It's so easy to do, right? Recently I was having a call where somebody asked me that, okay, if I buy a house worth 3 crores,
Correct.
Can I afford it right now or not? All I did was plugged in some numbers in a simple Excel sheet, and I said, you can, if you make a down payment of so and so much,
Right.
And the EMI will be so and so much. After 5 years, instead of having a net worth of 2 crores, for example, you will have a net worth of only 50 lakhs.
Correct.
So this is how your net worth will change.
I feel the resistance is with the numbers. किसी को बोला ना कि यार इधर है पहुंचना है, तू ये नंबर कर, वो इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट. वो लगता है कि यार कौन करेगा दिस दैट. देयर इज lethargy. It's literally a half an hour to 1 hour job, as you mentioned it. There are 3-4 inputs required.
Correct.
Income patterns, expense patterns, your goals, objectives, and current assets. That's it. Once you do that, I mean, the tunnel vision that you get is outstanding.
It essentially just brings a lot more logic into every decision we take today.
Correct.
Right? Otherwise, we're just taking decisions randomly. With the plan, you know what amount I should be investing today, what my asset allocation should be, and hence what products I should be investing in. So it should always be a reverse kind of working rather than just selecting the products. Another aspect is this financial plan that we make is not a one-time activity, right? It should be something that you revisit every year. and it acts as a benchmark as well, whether I'm on track to achieve
Correct.
what I set out to achieve. Right? Without the plan, if you have 2 crores today, say at the age of 35, you don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Should you have had more, or you've done an outstanding job? With the plan, you know where you should be and where you are, so you can make changes as and when needed.
Yeah, and I tell a lot of my clients or prospects that I speak to that if you are working with somebody who does not stress on making a financial plan for you, and they're asking you for your current liquidity and just recommending a product, that is the first red flag. Never work with somebody like that. Always have somebody who tries to understand where you're standing. At the end of the day, wealth management is a service, but unfortunately, it's become very commoditized, where it's all about the products that you can sell, right? Especially banks. Like we were just talking today about how ridiculous the approach that banks can take is, right? So without a financial plan, either do it by yourself or do it with somebody you're working with, but without that, do not proceed in any sort of engagement is what I would recommend, right? So let's get on to the questions. We've been doing this for a few episodes now, but we've got a few more questions from our listeners. So Viraj, the flavor of the season right now seems to be defense, right?
Right.
In the equity markets, everybody's asking, should I be investing into defense? A lot of guys have sort of said that what is the best defense fund to get into stocks? What is your advice when it comes to that? Should people be buying defense funds right now or no?
Look, defense, like any other, if I broadly look at it, it's a category. It's a theme in itself,
Correct.
right? Which comes under the category of thematic funds. So to answer your question in two parts, why if you should buy defense or not? Firstly, through mutual funds, especially, you should not invest in thematic funds at all. The clear example now, I'll come to the HDFC Defense Fund. Why I'm saying that is, look at the current holding of HDFC Defense Fund. There is HAL, which is 22%. There is Bharat Electronics, which is 22%. And the top 10 holdings combined add up to 75-80% of the portfolio.
Wow.
Right? So today you're paying a 2% expense ratio, 1.95 to be precise, to buy literally 10 stocks, which you could have bought on your own, because they are going to decide what is happening with the fund. If they do well, your fund is going to do well. If they are not doing well, the fund is going to do bad. The tail doesn't matter here, right? Because 75% is in top 10 holdings. So with high concentration, it's better to avoid thematic and most of the thematic funds, even the consumer funds, pharma funds, look at any, your top 10 holdings will decide what your fund performance is going to be. And that is why it's a strict no, because of the fact that it's better if you do those stocks yourself if you are extremely bullish on that. Otherwise, stick to the broad based funds like your large caps, mid caps, and small caps, where the gap is in your portfolio. Second reason why one should not do thematic funds is because of the market timing. Let's say, for example, HDFC has come with a defense fund. Looking at HDFC, there are 10 other AMCs who are coming out with defense funds. Now, think of it from a manufacturing and just that perspective. Think of it as of an AMC as a manufacturer. वो manufacturer क्या देख रहा है, ये चीज़ चल रही है, ये चीज़ चल चुकी है. जब वो चल चुकी है, he will come, यार ये product अच्छा है, इसको मैं launch करता हूँ. By the time he's launched that product, by the time the NFO happens, it comes into the market, there is certain track record. The defense theme or any XYZ theme has already been played.
Correct.
A classic example was also during your COVID times, when pharma, everyone saw in COVID, only pharma was working, pharma and a couple of other
Pharma
sectors,
and IT,
IT. Two sectors were working, pharma and IT. So everyone started coming. कि इसका pharma fund launch करते हैं, इसका IT fund launch करते हैं. Similarly, government बीच में कुछ logistics पे policy had come. So everyone came out with a logistics fund. Then everyone came out with an ESG fund. So my point is, these AMCs are manufacturers who want some money out of you. Correct? To do that, they will come up with certain products, but the timing of it may not be right.
Right.
Correct? So you're still bullish on that, you do it, no problem, but do it on your own. And if you want to do it rationally, then stick to the good categories like your large cap, large and mid cap, and small cap, and flexi cap.
Fair. That's a great answer. Sayam, the second question that we had was a two-parter. One is, at what point should somebody purchase a house, right? And secondly, if they have decided to purchase a house, how should they fund the down payment? What assets should they use to fund the down payment for that property?
Purchasing a house, there are two parts to it when you should do it. One is the financial decision, and second is the softer aspects, non-financial decision. I would say that financially, there's a lot of material out there about whether it makes sense to buy or not. Most people will say that it doesn't make sense. I would say it only makes sense to buy it once the softer issues start outweighing the financial issues. if you need a house for your child to grow up and things like that. In terms of how you should fund your down payment, it's quite simple mathematically. The cost of the loan is somewhere about 8.5% in India right now, home loan. Any asset that you have or investment that you have that is earning less than that, that should be the first to go. That should be utilized first for the down payment. So that is any excess bank balance you have, your FDs, any other debt investments. Keep in mind your PF is also something you can draw from during your when you want to purchase a house. So these are the things that you can use to source it. Any investment that you have that is earning more than that 8.5%. So for example, your mutual funds, any other equity investments that has double-digit returns, that should be the last one that you should tap into, because why give up on that 15% return to save one 8.5% cost? So that's the kind of hierarchy you should use to utilize for the down payment.
And there's no perfect answer to this, but what percentage of your savings should be used as the down payment?
I would say that what your total net worth is overall, add up everything that you have. You should not be using more than 30% of that as your down payment.
Right. So you still maintain your financial freedom even
You
though
still
you
maintain your
purchase.
financial freedom. Another number that I can add is that the EMI, that the outcome of the EMI should not be more than 30% of your monthly salary.
Right, right.
So
Makes sense.
that kind of helps you decide the budget for your house.
There's a new Ankur Varu going down.
We don't need more influencers here. Anyway, guys, so thanks so much for watching. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you're liking this and subscribing, sharing with your friends. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.